is an interactive installation of stories and ideas that have been created by the public here that use the library for everyone to come and play in over the winter holidays here at State Library.
So there are a lot of groups involved with the creation of a Great and Grand Rumpus, ranging from university students who have just begun their career in design through to young people engaging with refugee advocacy groups. It is really the epitome of collaboration.
The Great and Grand Rumpus has been quite a complex process. It started with 5 weeks of workshops with children and families. We wanted all of the ideas to come out of the ideas that children came up with within the workshops. One of those was when one of our artists, Sue, and one of our young participants, Jack, discussed what it would be like if the library turned upside down. And that's where the idea emerged that all of the stories that are hidden in the library would be shaken out. Over 63 children and families joined us to play with ideas on what the Great and Grand Rumpus could be. They drew drawings, they danced, they sang, and they made artefacts. And those artefacts were then brought over to the team here at the Edge, who used those to design and then fabricate all of the installation pieces that you see here.
Fabricating a Great and Grand Rumpus is a monumental undertaking that involves tons of people, tons of cardboard, and literally hundreds and hundreds of glue sticks. It's been a monumental effort. It's been really fascinating to watch that and also to discover, to learn the limitations of cardboard, to learn the limitations of foam and how we can overcome that in a creative and interesting way. So there are 12 artworks that make up the Great and Grand Rumpus. They are beautiful pieces to watch as you emerge through the space.
The wobbly-toothed shark was one of the first ideas that came out of the workshops with children and families. So one of our arts workers, Tim, was talking to a little boy about what would be the best way to get into the Great and Grand Rumpus. This little boy who had a wobbly tooth thought the best way in was definitely through a wobbly-toothed door. And we ended up with a wobbly-toothed door into a big shark's mouth that takes you into an underwater dance party.
So the bullfrog artwork was the imagination of children, the idea of a giant frog that would grant wishes. Augmenting on top of that is the product of the children's workshops with the projection that comes over the top of it.
It became the canvas for the projection mapping workshops with young people throughout the holidays. So each of them had the opportunity to do live animation onto the bullfrog, and then we've been able to loop their animations so that everybody else that comes into the space can see the content that the young people have created here at the library.
So the robot brain is probably one of my favourite pieces, not only because of its beautiful design as a cave within our building that you can duck into, where it's dark and mysterious with things that light up and buttons you can press and sounds you can activate. It's probably the one that's been overlaid the most by the community post the initial fabrication.
So it started with Marley's idea of drawing a robot, and workshops with the young people added layers of audio to it.
So we've gone from children's ideas to designs to fabrication to an army of tinkerers that have lit it up, embedded fans into it, periscopes. They've
added so many different layers to it, and it is amazing to watch children go in there and play with it, but it's also amazing to see how much the adults love it too.
So I think one of the most important things about the Great and Grand Rumpus is it didn't end when the installations went up.
One of the other ways that we've activated the installation is by having a drop-in making space for children and families. They can come in and use a whole lot of art making materials to create a character and then tag it and share their story with us, leave it here in the story garden. We're hoping that if we collect enough stories, we'll be able to turn the library the right way round again.
Challenges of the Great and Grand Rumpus have been many, but none of them insurmountable. Collaboration, working with community. The one thing is we can have an expectation of how long something's going to take, and we can have an excellent plan, but plans never survive contact with the public. So while we could go, yes, in 2 weeks' time we can knock this out, maybe we should say 3 weeks' time, so we can stop at various points, slow it down a little bit and enjoy the process more as a social engagement, because part of this project has been about building these communities. And building community takes time, and communities want to be able to enjoy each other as much as the process they're engaging in. When you're working with the public and you're basing the outcomes on all of their ideas, you don't exactly know what it is that you're going to end up with. So going along that journey has been really interesting for the organisation, the artists and all of us involved, and it's been thrilling to see the output at the end is wilder than any of us could have imagined alone. So we'd love to do the Great and Grand Rumpus again, to take the learnings that were created and found this time and applying them to a greater greater and grander opportunity next year to broaden out the engagement to more communities.
I think the Great and Grand Rumpus is a truly great and grand example of all of the work that happens in libraries when they engage with community. So
part of the commitment has been documenting this process, writing it up so that people can see what it takes to achieve these programs and projects, because sometimes from the outside looking in they can look amazing and a little unachievable. But providing libraries with access to the objective notes, the lesson plans, the outlines, gives it a sense of achievability. It's not something that could only just be done at the State Library, but if any library wanted to do it across Queensland, that we're providing some resource towards how you might achieve that, how you might engage community, and how you might execute something that will transform other spaces in other places across Queensland.